Hey guys, it's Logan here with Hydra 572, bringing you another edition of Beginner Knife Knowledge. Today we're going to be talking about the liner lock mechanism, as innovated and popularized by Michael Walker, a custom knife maker around the early 1980s. For illustration, I have the Spyderco Tenacious and Resilience, two very popular liner locks. So let's get started with a little bit of anatomy. Looking at the handle of the Resilience, this black bit most of us know is called the handle scale. This is the part that you grip that gives you traction and comfort and everything like that. These can be made out of G10, as this one happens to be, other polymers like Zytel or FRN, as well as wood, metal, anything like that. Underneath, as we can see on the Tenacious, we have the liner. These tend to be made out of steel or titanium, and they're added to provide structural rigidity and also, in the case of the liner lock, your locking mechanism. Let's take a look at the liner of the Tenacious, provided that I can get the thing off. And there we go. As you can see, it is skeletonized. It has these holes and this channel taken out of it to reduce weight. And as you can see, this portion, called the lock bar, is under tension. It wants to be pushing the direction that right now should be right, the direction that right now is into the log. Now when it is properly installed with the handle scale on and whatnot, as I will illustrate on the Resilience, it wants to be pushing over in the direction that right now is right, but it can't because it is impeded by the blade itself. It doesn't get to move over to the right until the blade is opened all the way during deployment. It's still being impeded by the blade right now, and there it just slid over. And right now, the blade is impeded from moving forward by the lock bar. I can push this direction all I want, the blade's not going anywhere, and it is impeded from swiveling backward by the stop pin. As you guys can see there, it is resting right up against a pin that is in the steel liners underneath the handle scales. So I can push in this direction all I want, and the blade's not going anywhere. And that is basically how the liner lock mechanism works. You have a slanted face on the lock bar and the lock face of the blade, that is the lower portion that you can see there. And as you guys can see, that allows the lock bar to move over a portion of the width of the blade and not the whole way, and that impedes it from moving forward. Like I said, all the negative pressure I want and it's not going anywhere. And a stop pin, either inside the handle itself or on the outside, resting against the handle. In some way, shape, or form, a stop pin is involved in keeping the blade from rotating under positive pressure. So the blade is locked in both dimensions and can't move anywhere. Very effective locking mechanism. So that's the basic gist of it, but it does get a bit more complicated. We still have to talk about detents. I'll pull back up the liner from the Tenacious. And as you guys can see in the top left corner of the lock bar, right there, we have a little metal ball that's press-fitted into a hole that's drilled in the liner. This is called the detent ball. And it is there so that when the blade is closed, it will be pressing from the same pressure from the lock bar, acting like a leaf spring, into that little hole that you see on the blade. And that pressure from the ball sitting in that hole is what keeps the blade from opening when it's in your pocket, providing handle retention. Because when the blade is closed, you're walking around with it, it's shaking around, you don't want it to just open on you and cut your pocket and maybe your leg up, so that is what the detent provides. Breaking the detent, that is, providing enough blade movement for the detent ball to come up out of that hole, on a well-executed liner lock, enough pressure to break the detent will also be enough pressure to deploy the blade. As you guys can hopefully hear, that's the detent ball going into and out of its little hole. And enough pressure to break the detent on a real deployment is enough pressure to deploy the blade. Let's see if I can show you guys, as we break the detent, the liner will move just a little bit to the left. Let's see if I can show you. Gotta be really stable. There, you guys saw it there. That's the ball rising up out of that hole, and now the detent ball is the only thing that is touching the blade during deployment, reducing friction. So, that is how the liner lock works. It's a very popular, very simple locking mechanism, and with the improvements that were added by Michael Walker, it took the knife market by storm and helped introduce the modern folder as we know it today. So, I hope you guys have found this video interesting, educational. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.